just in case.
Just in case.
Great.
Yeah. So thank you, Michael, for being with us. This is your third book with Damiani, eponymous titled Michael Stipe. This sounds to me like a kind of autobiography in which we see you not in first person, but behind the camera, the people that influenced you and your family. Is that correct? Do you agree with that?
That is correct. However, the book is not called Michael Stipe. That was a confusion that went out with one of the press agents. The book doesn't have a title. I just put my name on the spine so people would know that it's by me, but it's not called Michael Stipe. The truth is, though, you're right. It's a portrait of me, but not me. It's a portrait of everyone who I admire, and in a way, it's like a checklist of people who have provided for me inspiration and courage to allow myself to be vulnerable and to recognize that vulnerability as a very powerful thing.
This is, as you said, this is a book about family, your biological family and your cultural family.
Yeah, I didn't want to make a book about COVID-19, but it has to. It's important that human interaction broke down to such a degree that I couldn't spend intimate time with my own family or my goddaughter, much less other people. And so I used these devices of the vases, the book covers, and the graphic design. And then I went into my archive to create an image of making a book of portraits in a year where you can't see anyone.
One thing I really loved about the book is the audio narration, which is a unique insight into your creative process. How did you decide to do that? I read that you were inspired by the podcast by Lou Reed and Al Wilner. Is that correct? Was that convinced you to do this audio narration and to reveal your insight in creative process?
The conversations between Hal and Will, between Hal and Lou, were not a podcast, but they were recorded conversations. And it's just two friends, both insanely intelligent and very comfortable with each other, going back and forth and talking. And then along with that, I was listening to a lot of podcasts because I spent a great deal of time alone. And the podcasts made me feel more connected to the world and made me feel less crazy. I think a lot of people felt really crazy, and I'm not a very good solitary person, or I wasn't until the pandemic. And now I realize at 61 years old, I'm actually very comfortable with my own company. But my whole life, I never felt that before.
The last time we met was in Milan, and we were talking about the Automatic for the People reissue, and you said something that really struck with me, that you felt difficult to hear your voice, especially in the demo recordings, because you were at the peak of your vulnerability. Did you have some reservation about recording your voice in this contest for the book, or?
Of course, yes, absolutely. I don't like my speaking voice. I love my singing voice. I recognize that my singing voice has its good points and its bad points, but I like my singing voice. I don't like my speaking voice. I don't like the intonation of my voice. I don't like the way I sound to myself often like a professor or like I'm lecturing people, when the truth is I am a little bit of a know-it-all, but I'm also just trying to formulate the ideas to be able to put them into words to get them out, because I have a problem with that. I'm very smart inside, but I can't always connect it to the language that comes out. And so
when you talk about the way you work through lists and through dreams, and you mentioned, for example, it's the end of the world, which was a dream about a dream analyst, and the way you lists and dreams inspire you to this day. Is that correct? Do you still work in this way?
Yes, and that is correct. I the list making, I can't understand. It's not something that I chose to do. That's just how my brain organizes things. And so many of the lyrics, excuse me, to the songs wound up becoming lists. And I think that in essence, those songs might be my best work because it's intuitive and automatic. It's not something that I had to work at. It just came pouring out of me, and I had to trust. I had to trust that instinct enough to say that that's it. I have to be a good. You have to always be a very good editor of your own work. So write drunk, edit sober. That's the phrase, you know. So, but the lists, for example, the song Ebo the Letter, or the song End of the World as We Know It, those are essentially as they came to me, these thoughts, these ideas, these lists of things, unedited, with very little editing. Ebo the Letter has no editing whatsoever. End of the World is somewhat edited.
You also said that photography comes easier for you than music.
I'm a very visual person, and music to me is extremely visual. So, composing music is not easy, but writing to composed music is even more difficult. And still, to me, looking at an image and listening to a song are the same thing. I see a landscape, and music brings a visual image to my mind. That's how my brain interprets music. So then, as a lyricist or as a singer, my job would be to populate that landscape with a narrative or an idea, with a thought, with a story, with someone else's story. And that's not an easy thing to do. That's a very difficult thing to do. But I see both music and imagery on an equal playing field.
Wow. Getting back to the book, this is your third book with Damiani, which is an independent publisher in Italy. How did you get in touch with them? What is your Italian connection with Damiani?
It's through friends in New York, but I believe it was Jonathan Berger who made Volume 1 with me, the first book, with Damiani, and he knew of the publishing house and knew the people in New York who were connected to it, and thought it was a good fit. And after I met them, after I met Sylvia, certainly her enthusiasm for my work and for my ideas as a photographer, for me, making a book is like creating a work of art, and doing it with Damiani, however many books they make, for me, that's a piece of art that goes out into the world, to someone's home. And so I'm so excited about it, and I'm very happy to sign each one that I can possibly sign, because to me it feels like a photograph or a painting. You know, I love objects, and most of my life I created things that were not objects, and so it's nice to create an object.
One common thread that I see in your solo work is that as a former pop star, you could have the possibility of publish with everyone, but you decided to publish with an independent book publisher. You published your songs yourself, and even R.E.M. brought their catalog to a big independent label, moving that from a major. Is that correct? Is that something you crave for? Something that you want to be, so to say, independent?
It's not so much independence as being able to work with people who understand art and vision, and acknowledge and recognize that. And I see that in Damiani. I see a true love of the craft, or the vision of an artist, through the work that they do, through the choices that they make as a publishing house. So I'm excited to work with them, not because they're independent, but because they're really smart, and they know what they're talking about, and they're really good.
I don't know if you can answer that, or if this is off topic or not, but when you spoke about your first book with Damiani, you said that you have many songs ready, and you published a couple as a solo artist, and last year you made No Time for Love Like Now. Will we see some new songs or an album in the near future, or?
Yes, I'm working on the music, but the problem, of course, is that in my past is R.E.M, and it's a very difficult. That's a giant mountain to climb, to try to create something that doesn't embarrass or is on the same level as R.E.M. And I'm one person. I'm not Michael, Peter, Mike, and Bill, or Bill.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot. It's a lot to overcome. But the music is being made. I'm just not releasing it yet.
Okay. Getting back to the book, and another common thread I see between your past work and current work is your love for fonts and typography. Something I really love the R.E.M cover arts. They were really unique for the time, and we see that now. Is this something that you work a lot on? What is your process about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very attracted to the era of typography and font and graphic design from when I was a teenager. And so it's mostly 60s, 70s, really focusing on the 1970s. It just makes me extremely happy to look at it. It makes me feel relaxed. It makes me feel inspired. My pathetic, and I mean, it's purposely very, very amateur and almost naive attempt at graphic design in this book is supposed to be something that a graphic designer would look at and dismiss completely. But it's my showing my love of, without knowing anything about how to be a graphic designer, it's my showing my love of graphic design. That's basically it.
Yeah. 2001 and 21 is a year of anniversaries. Do you like or you don't like to talk about your past? I mean, in September there will be 10 years after R.E.M disbanded. There will be 25 years from New Adventures in A5, for which you shoot the cover photography of, which is probably one of the first photography you published. Do you like to talk about this anniversary? Is something that you have to do and you don't like particularly, or is something that just happens and you do it?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk about it, and to participate in putting the music out again, or do the re-releases. I think allow people who know the music to listen to it again, or look at it from a different perspective, and hopefully it reaches a new audience of people. So
it's fine. One last thing, I read that there will be an exhibition of yours in Milan in 2022. Is that correct? What
yes.
can you tell us about it?
It's with ICA Milan, and initially it was going to happen before COVID, but we had to move it, and so the idea that I started with has changed dramatically because of everything we've been through. So I'm still formulating what it's going to become, but a lot of the work will be drawn from these 3 books.
Okay, thank you. Okay.